Yeah, 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 yeah.
Hello, you just heard the song Sick by SALEM, which is an example of the music genre and aesthetic known as witch house. Witch house was the very first internet aesthetic, having first emerged in the late 2000s as bands like SALEM, Pictureplane, and Crimes combined occult imagery and sounds. The genre blended chopped and screwed hip-hop beats, distorted synths, and eerie vocals, gaining a devoted following on Tumblr and MySpace. And I'm really excited to talk about this, but I'm much less familiar with it, or I was before this week, because I was always a bit turned off by the occult imagery and inverted crosses.
I just always knew peripherally of it, like in the same sentence. It's like, internet things like vaporwave and witch house and stuff. I knew about it through, I guess, bands that are lightly outside of it that we're going to talk about, like, Crystal Castles, The Knife, which is a Scandinavian band, older than this whole thing. Lorne, who I actually really like and I haven't heard much about recently, and Mount Kimby, who's sometimes in playlists of witch house stuff.
Really?
Yeah, that surprised me too. It's just like, I'm like, no, he's just like a DJ electronic guy. Like, he's not in this.
Yeah. No, these just sound like chillwave, which was another sort of early 2010s music genre.
Yeah. Wait, you're right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think we wrote about chillwave, but I think that was a term coined by Hipster Runoff. But another one that kind of fits into that is Purity Rings. I saw that included on some witch house list where I was like, that does not fit.
No, they're coming to Chicago this month though.
Yeah.
I'm down for that. This is also a good October topic.
Oh no, that's why I waited this long until episode 89 to do witch house. I was like, we need to do this episode in October.
Yeah, I fear we're like running out of the true internet micro aesthetics, the pre TikTokification of micro trends and stuff. Like, there's only so many more.
Well, there's an abundance of consumer aesthetics we could delve into.
Oh, yeah.
But in terms of early internet aesthetics, this is the fifth and final one.
Yeah.
It's the first one, though, and we can get into some of the history now. So there's a website, witchhouse.com, which is a really good resource.
Oh, yeah.
On it, there's a timeline that lists like hundreds of releases, hundreds of, or not hundreds of interviews, but it really like delineates everything that happened in the history of the genre.
Yeah. It's posted in a really cool way where every posting is actually like a forum thread essentially. So you're kind of like crowdsourcing all this information, but a lot of it is done by this user Zin. I'm very grateful for posting all that stuff.
That must be who started it. And he's still actively working on it. Like, there's an Instagram page for witchhouse.com and he just announced some playlist he was working on. So he's still like making sure that it's up to date to some degree. But the very first post on the timeline is really interesting. It's a blog called Runawaytoday, which started in 2005. When I think about internet aesthetics and the early history of them, never ever do I think about what was going on in 2005.
Yeah, no, that definitely feels like prehistory, like pre-Web 2.0 type stuff.
Yeah, because in the mid-2000s, whoever made this blog, Ponyboy, he should have just been at a mall, like enjoying bling pastimes.
Yeah, just enjoying before the recession, like America riding high, like being, 04 rich and all that kind of stuff. It's fun to think about how these different movements we talk about do overlap. Like, I guess scene kids were also happening during this, That's like, I'm sure there was some overlap there.
There might be. But Runawaytoday, it's a blog, not through Tumblr. So this gives some context that there might have been other people who were sort of creating aesthetic internet blogs pre-Tumblr. And on this, there's like, it's somewhat creepy, it doesn't quite nail it with everything that he posted. Like, there are some pictures of actual witch houses, like haunted mansions, but some of them, they really nail it where it is witch house, like through and through.
Yeah. His stuff is a little bit more like, if witch house broadly is very like horror influence, this feels almost like Halloween, where it's more on the nose, like witches, ghosts, ghouls.
Yeah, it's like creepy.
Yeah, he also, Ponyboy, his real name was Antonio Urdiales, and he later made music under the name God Bless. And they had this great post. In 2008, he posted these like 5 spooky images, but each one was a song that you'd click and you'd download it right there. I think the links are still live, surprisingly, too.
Yeah. I found a YouTube video that actually compiled the 5. That's
Mhm.
probably easier for people to look
Yeah.
at.
Mhm.
It's a little bit like we do. I like the format where, you know,
Yeah.
each song, or in our case, each audio track, it's released along with one image that kind of adds to the vibe.
Yeah, it's like each song gets its own album art. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
But Ponyboy, he was one of the earliest Witch House musicians. So
Mhm.
Runawaytoday, that started in 2005. And then in the following years, particularly in 2007, leading up to 2009, Ponyboy, Salem, Modern Witch, Pictureplane, there start to be these like Witch House musicians who release like songs and albums, but we're not going to really get too into them. But they're all in that timeline if you want to get more information. And then Pictureplane, in 2009, he coins Witch House in an interview with Pitchfork magazine.
Yeah.
It was this article guest list, best of 2009, and there's like 10 bullet points. One of them, he talks about Witch House. He brings it up kind of as a joke.
Yeah, his quote is 2009 was the beginning of the Witch House style, also known as Black House or Occult House.
Coined and popularized by Shams and myself, 2 practitioners and advocates of the Witch House movement. Mark our words, 2010 will be straight up witchy.
You can tell it's tongue in cheek. Like I feel like when I first read it, I was like, "Wait, how serious is this guy?" But like just reading other posts by him and stuff, like, oh, he's like taking fun out of this, basically. Like practitioners and advocates shows that he's playing it up. Like no one was actually taking it that seriously at that point as a term.
Yeah. Pictureplane, he is a serious musician. He's put out 11 albums. Witch House is just part of his career. But he had like a pretty offhands approach to it. He didn't try to gatekeep it too much, which is oftentimes the downfall of like niche genres and internet aesthetics. But we'll get to that a bit later.
Yeah. In other ones we've talked about, like with Electro Clash, there was a guy who really pushed for the word Electro Clash and the festival and all that. And he was seen as just like making too much of a thing out of it. But Pictureplane, very hands off, very nice guy all around, I would say.
Yeah. Like Larry T, who coined Electroclash, he trademarked it, made that term the name for a music festival, and then was like really gatekeeping it, making sure it was only used in specific ways. But Pictureplane seemed to have like had like a good ethos around it and let it grow.
Yeah, and then I found a Guardian article off of the timeline where the author is defending what he calls genre mongering, and he's saying this with respect to Witch House. He's saying that like the music press gets accused of getting really excited around a new genre because it's kind of a new article you can just instantly write and you can just name a few artists and stuff and say, oh, we're really ahead of the curve. We've caught this thing that's happening. But I think in this period, I think, it was easier than ever to find music, but like, how do you find music you like? And so I think that this like over genreification was very useful at the time, especially like pre-algorithm. Like now I try not to like use too much algorithm AI stuff, but like if I find a song I like, I'm going to right click it on Spotify and have them make a radio out of it to find like similar stuff. But before that, like if you like a song, you see, oh, it's under this, umbrella, not a huge umbrella, but the umbrella of Witch House, you can, discover music more easily.
Yeah, there was an article I was reading on Witch House for this week where it talked about how this period of music in general, you were able to experiment more because you could make music in your room instead of you didn't have to do it in a professional studio anymore, because there was this sort of democratization of the tools that were needed to mix music.
Yeah.
But I would defend, genre mongering as well, like the guy who wrote this article, because I think it was really interesting and innovative for people to look at images and make music that had the same vibe. And then people would make more images based off that music. And it created these feedback loops.
Yeah.
And I think that like that's a great way to think of how to expand the frontiers of what music can be, is to think about aesthetics. And I appreciate that Witch House and the people that made it were the first to do that.
Yeah, it's that like very tight link between the two. Not that music didn't have aesthetics before this, but like, I don't know, album art always seemed pretty secondary to the music. And this really just opened up that you could have this, constant feedback loop between image and sound.
I mean, with the history of internet aesthetics, the first 5, they like were more so subcultures. They had stronger musical elements. And then after a while, as things got past vaporwaves, it started to be that people would just make aesthetics with no music. It was considered to be more important initially.
Yeah, it feels like it can go the other way now, where it's like, all right, cottagecore, we have, photos of cute little like forest creature cottages. Like, what would this sound like?
Yeah. And now I think we can get into the elements of the witch house aesthetic. So the foundation of it, it's the occult and horror movies. A lot of witch house images are just screenshots or point and shoot pictures of TVs or other screens showing horror movies, like on our Pinterest board, which we made one, by the way.
Yeah.
You know, there's images of an alien, a demon, a thief wearing a scream mask. Like, this is everywhere.
Yeah. And it's often a very like found footage type, like found images, like there's a, how do I say this? Like a purposeful lack of intentionality is what they're trying to do. And make it seem like these are just like happenstance images.
Well, that found footage quality, it's in part because the best example or the main inspiration of this aesthetic is the Blair Witch Project, which most of our viewers will know, most of our listeners will know. It was the first found footage film. Have you ever seen it?
No, I feel like I've just been so exposed to it. It was held up like as a kid as the scariest movie in the world that like everyone's older brother had seen. Like I was actively afraid of the idea of it as a kid, I think.
Yeah. I don't really like horror, but I push myself to watch it because I like found footage films like District 9. Wait, was that found footage? What was the other one that was?
District 9 was very like shaky cam though. It was Cloverfield.
Cloverfield. I was thinking of that. Yeah, I like that genre. It's really cool. But I watched it. I wasn't super scared by it. But back in the day, what made it so scary to viewers, and this is part of the reason I watched it too, my sister and other viewers thought that it was really actually a documentary. Yeah. Because the Blair Witch Project, it was shot on a really tiny budget of $35,000. It was kind of a mess. And then the marketing campaign was really good and successful because what they did was they promoted the movie saying that the actors were either deceased or missing, like the IMDb page listed them as such. And they released this website that I'll link in the show notes that had like a section for the aftermath where it showed an abandoned vehicle. And it was basically presenting this movie as being where all of these actors disappeared and or died. And so my sister, she literally was in the theater, my family, we're all credulous. We believe in the paranormal.
Such a funny trait. I think I come from a skeptical family, so it's good to hear about credulous families out there.
Yeah, no, I mean, growing up, like if someone told me that like fairies or demons or ghosts or aliens were real, I would immediately believe them. I still do. But my sister went into the Blair Witch Project and literally was watching it thinking she watched people die like on screen.
Oh
so it was like she was screaming like for her life.
Just a wide release snuff film, you know, like that passed the MPAA, like totally like I love that.
Yeah. But it's perfect for Witch House, not only because it has witches, but because it has, you know, the lo-fi quality. And it was also a bit retro by the time the later 2000s came around.
Yeah, I'm sure you probably experienced that watching it. Like, it's hard to put yourself into that mindset of like really believing it. It does seem a little hokey by now, but it's just one of those pieces of like early to mid 2000s media that like fundamentally changed its genre. I think about, we talked this in like the espionage episode, how like Jason Bourne just caused every other like spy franchise to be like, oh shit, like we have to have shaky cam and it needs to be a more personal story about the spy himself. He can't be like investigating other countries and stuff. It's about his story and why he's like this. And I think that, yeah, horror movies had this big like catch up moment of just like, no, we have to be less like, I don't know if like theatrical is the word for it, but we need to like eliminate the barrier between like reality and story.
Yeah. A major innovation that I heard the filmmakers talk about was they loved horror movies, but they didn't really consider like horror in the 90s to be that scary. What they did that actually like helped redefine the genre was they didn't show like the evil monster, the witch, at the end of the film. You never see it. And it's what you don't see that scared the audience.
I'm surprised it took so long for that to be learned in horror. Like hiding the monster seems so obvious. You have to like build it up. I was watching like a bad horror movie from the 80s with friends recently, and it's like not like a lovable bad one. It's like a genuinely bad one, like not talented people involved in it. But they just show like the monster, like in the first shot, basically, you just have this guy in a rubbery costume like walking through the woods. And it's like, wow, I guess you don't realize how wrong it is until it's done like fully incorrectly. Like, no, you have to show the person running scared in the woods, looking over their shoulder. Like that's kind of where you have to start. Like you can't just like blow your best shot all at the start.
Yeah. I mean, the Blair Witch Project, it was a success, but it wasn't all that believable in many ways. Like the acting was kind of bad,
Yeah.
but it's charming in its own way.
Yeah. In my like growing up, I think I was more in the like paranormal activity area. You know, like that movie was huge at the time. It took like the lessons of Blair Witch. I think it brought it closer to home. Like it's hard to imagine yourself like going into the woods on this pretty dumb mission or whatever brings them into the woods that gets them all killed. But like using just like suburban California as a setting, I think is a little like bringing it closer to the people and making it more relatable and scary.
Yeah. And then another aesthetic element that kind of comes through with the Blair Witch Project and with witch house images in general is just the woods. Because the woods are kind of scary in their own right. They don't even need to have, you know, a supernatural entity in them to be scary.
Yeah, I heard this like take once that American horror is more focused on nature as opposed to like British, I guess, continental horror, which is about cities. People have chalked up to like, oh yeah, Jack the Ripper like still looms in the mind of British people. But for America, we have this sense that we never really fully conquered the wild. We just live inside of it, basically. But sometimes that barrier can be like melted down.
Yeah. We have more wild spaces, which is something that'll come up in next week's episode, but we won't spoil it. But yeah, just the desolation of the woods will kill you. Like you can die of exposure. You don't even need something to kill you.
Yeah, just the idea of like, no light, like no natural light, just like spooky trees and stuff.
But another reason that spooky trees were in was because Witch House, it emerged during the era of hipster culture known as the Green Era. So Brad Tromel, he has this good video where he breaks down hipster culture into 4 eras. And the second one is the Green Era, which lasted from, say, 2003 to 2008. And it saw a shift towards outdoorsy innocence, which explains why the woods were so heavily featured in Witch House.
Yeah. That video is really cool. Yeah, he talks about the white era, the green era, the neon era, and then landing at the
gray era.
The gray era. Yeah. And at first I was like, that's too clean. There's no way he's going to pull off this allegory. But no, the green one really made sense. And the whole kind of like, I always like the phrase like woodland creatures. I feel like that was very big in the green era of hipsterdom. And he has the analysis that like you still see this in the names: Fleet Foxes, Animal Collective, Band of Horses. Yeah, I don't know, like it's a good take. He's onto something there. Yeah. There's a fascination with the wild. I always think of also that movie adaptation of Where the Wild Things Are. It was made during this that I think is just very like twee woodland hipster of that era. Maybe a little bit later because, it takes a while to get a movie together. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, which era of hipster culture do you think you related to more in your youth?
Not the neon one. I would say probably the green one. I would say, I was close enough. Like, I was a middle schooler trying to be as cool as the people I saw on Tumblr who were actually doing it. But definitely the woods.
I was more of the neon era because I started working in American Apparel around that era. Yeah. And I had some really brightly colored pants.
Yeah. No, American Apparel managed to survive in each era. Like really like helming the white era. And the kind of like 70s throwback ringer socks, selling flannels, I guess, like to survive in the green era, thin cottony flannels.
Because I think Tromel, he says that hipster culture died in 2015 or 2016, which is when American Apparel went out of business.
Yeah. End of the reign of the king.
Yeah. And another thing that kind of loops into the woods is, as you mentioned, there's often this sort of lo-fi quality to the images, one of them being trail cam images. This doesn't come up a lot, but it's an interesting side of the aesthetic.
Yeah, I think that, bad digital cameras is interesting for this period because even good digital cameras were not great. Like, I felt like the gap between bad digital, like semi-recently when like point and shoots cameras came back as a cute thing as opposed to disposable cameras, I was like, oh, that's interesting. It's the classic kind of like everything comes back around again. Like I remember digging out an old Polaroid camera when I was in high school and like, this is the coolest thing ever. And we've strayed from the light. And now people feel that way about like, early digital point and shoots.
Yeah. I was actually thinking of buying a Polaroid camera this week because I'm hosting Friendsgiving next month. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, it'd be nice to get like Polaroid pictures with my friends.
That would be good. No, I like the bigger ones, the bigger format ones, as opposed to like the Instax Mini. It's like, you're just like squinting, trying to like suss out what people are in the photo.
Yeah. And then one thing about Witch House is there actually weren't too many music videos produced, or if they were really all just reused footage that was heavily over edited. But one like real music video is Dirt by Salem. Do you want to talk about that a bit?
Yeah, it's like, yeah, I was trying to suss out, like, all right, is this intentionally bad or like in terms of the video quality? I'm pretty sure it's filmed in Chicago, right? The alleyways just look very Chicago alleyway. It could be somewhere else in the Midwest, but
That lines
yeah.
up for me. But
Mhm.
yeah, this, I think Salem, they were trying to be edgy.
Mhm.
And like, I mean, the album or the EP that Dirt came out on, it was called like Yes, I Smoke Crack. So they weren't really trying to present themselves as polished.
Yeah, I like that they didn't just like go super into the witch side of it and have that in the name of the album or anything. They're just like, no, we're just going for crack, actually.
Yeah.
No.
And then the last element, this is pretty fundamental. Crosses, triangles, and Unicode symbols. You'll see these all over the Pinterest board.
Mm-hmm.
Crosses, they're typically inverted, which is something that turned me away from Witch House in my youth. But
Yeah.
I was surprised to find examples where they're actually upright.
Mm-hmm.
And for example, like King Night by Salem, that album, it kind of explores Christianity and doesn't really make fun of it, to my understanding. Like the title track, King Night,
Mm-hmm.
it samples Oh Holy Night. Doesn't seem to be meant to be like super offensive, but
No, it's just like using the power of like religious music and then like inverting it and finding the dark version of it.
yeah.
Yeah. No, the Unicode, yeah, names are just crazy. Like so many
Yeah.
like, yeah, dots and bits and bobs. And some like Russian Cyrillic tossed in. I saw that too sometimes just because it kind of fits with the theme, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I think the Unicode symbols, what they elicit or they conjure images of is like the Zodiac killer and the ciphers that he would leave.
Yeah, like a digital version of that. I can see that.
Yeah. I've actually been watching a Netflix documentary on the Zodiac killer that came out last year, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Because they never officially found the killer technically, but this, I mean, they basically have, like, I can't believe they still don't know when this documentary exists because what's his name, Mr. Allen? He totally did it.
Yeah, that was I looked it up a while back. I forget why. Maybe it was when the Jeffrey Dahmer not docu. There was a docu-series and then there was also
A series,
a
proper.
series, about that. And I was like, wait, how about the Zodiac guy? They ever find him? Like, and then it's like, pretty much, like mostly, yeah. When they found the Golden State guy, I'm like, these guys' days are numbered. You can't just get away with this forever. Like, we have too much technology.
Yeah. And then next, I'd like to talk about Witch House fashion.
Mm-hmm.
So Witch House fashion is typically all black.
Mm-hmm.
So what does it do to differentiate itself from other goth and all black aesthetics and fashion styles? So it heavily incorporates occult symbols. That's the main thing it does.
Yeah, no. The inverted cross leggings. Yeah, that's definitely like, that brings to mind Witch House, 100%.
Yeah, I don't think that's the most avant-garde garment that you can wear if you want to dress Witch House, but it's the most 2010s because that was the peak of women wearing leggings as pants.
Yes, this is the high water mark of that, yeah.
Yeah. There's this meme I didn't link where it's of like inverted cross clothing and then it says like B words wear stuff like this and then cry when the devil comes to possess them.
Yes. Very good, very good. Yeah, I think it drew a lot from just kind of general like alt and like punk, like lowercase p punk clothing, I would say, of this era. And then like black skinny jeans, that was just du jour of this time.
Way skinnier than what came later.
Yeah.
And then for men, what do you think they would wear?
My guess would be just like black hoodies kind of hiding the face. I'm actually picturing the kind of like Crystal Castles cover with the heads down kind of thing, even though they're not squarely Witch House.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's more like Bloghouse or Indie Sleaze
yeah,
though.
That's true.
I think for men's Witch House fashion, like a good outfit would be a shirt of some kind that has occult symbols, and then they'd wear like a fair amount of jewelry. Like Pictureplane, there's pictures of him on the Pinterest board. He's decked out in like a necklace that's just a big triangle, and I feel like that's a good way to do it.
Yeah. This would later be used by the E-boys, the rings and stuff. It's all, the seeds were planted here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think the best example of Witch House fashion, it's Nevermind. It's spelled like NVRMND, and it's an out-of-funk clothing line. It wasn't archived anywhere except for the clothing line's owner, the guy who founded it, Alec Morgan. He has a Facebook profile. I'll link in the show notes. Yeah. He changed his like cover photo and profile picture like weekly, I feel like, and there are hundreds.
That was a thing at the time, yeah. And his like profile is all like public. It's kind of crazy. And now it's like been long, like people like he will repost stuff from the past and be like, damn, like just thinking like waxing poetically about this period.
Yeah. I'm glad he left it all up because like Nevermind, they made clothing that was witch house, sea punk, health goth a bit, but primarily witch house because their logo, it's in reference to the Asmodeus symbol. It's a very particular demon.
Yeah, it's the demon king of lust. I was just reading about it, and I was like surprised it's even mentioned in the Talmud, which is a very important part of like the Jewish Bible.
Yeah.
But it's like the rabbinic commentary. But I'm like, oh wow, even in, like, I always think of demons as just being like, that's some Christian stuff I don't know about. But yeah, it's an older Testament thing.
I feel like I don't even want to know about demons, or I feel like because there's a common folk belief where it's like if you think about something, you invite it into your life. So I don't even want to know.
We just draw a hard line. That makes sense.
Yeah. And this is a good point to briefly mention Witch House's connection to sea-punk because before sea-punk became his thing, like many of the musicians did make Witch House music. And then sea-punk had a shorter life than Witch House did. So when sea-punk fizzled out, say around like 2013, 2014, a fair amount of them actually went back to Witch House.
Yeah, you posted the video for Hyperreal by Pictureplane,
which has Zumbel and Ultra Demon in it.
Yeah, and they're just sitting there, and it feels like it's an Easter egg, like for us and for the other people trying to like look back and catalog this. I'm sure they just knew everyone involved, and then they're all in the same circles sharing stuff and all that. But it's so cool. They're like, it's them. They're right there, like pointing at the screen.
Yeah. No, like Pictureplane knew a lot of people that were big on Tumblr and the early internet. Like, I would love to pick his brain. Hint, hint. But yeah, there's a picture of Zumbel on her Pinterest board wearing Nevermind clothing. And there are others out there too that I didn't include. But like she was truly working in that genre for a bit. Like she has the song Pumpkin Pumpkin, which I think is what was that Creation song? Gucci Gucci?
Oh, yeah. I'm not the one to ask on Creation. I wish I could give you more on that.
But no, Pumpkin Pumpkin is like a cover of the like Creation's biggest song. I forget the name of it. And then now we can actually get to the unpronounceable band names, and we're going to read off some that are on this Reddit post where it's the iceberg meme where, the deeper you go, the more like esoteric it is. But okay, we didn't look at this in advance. Let's give this a shot.
I took a lot of self-control not to like read ahead on this. But yeah, it starts off, I think they just have stuff in here that's like, a little too wide of the umbrella, like Death Grips, Crystal Castles, Purity Ring. And then you go down to Fraunhofer Diffraction. That's a good one. Crimes, which is just spelled weird but readable.
Yeah. And then there are 3 crosses there. So this one's fun to bring up. Okay, I know the answer to this one. So there's actually 2 Witch House bands where there are 3 crosses. One is just crosses. The other one, the one in the middle, is a Lorraine cross. But okay, this top one, that's called crosses. The other one is called Rituals with 3 Z's.
You can't have it both ways. Ice Peak. Yeah, I know they're like, I know they're like a real artist. I think you'll actually like them. No offense to as we go deeper down here. Axios Link. Etta. What to do with that?
Yeah. One I want to say on air is ooh. That's at the top. It's 5 O's.
Oh yeah, 5 O's. Ooh. Amon. Plavegus. I know it's plagues, but I want to have some fun.
Sad Wrist. That one's easy to read.
Yeah.
Half Missed. The vowels are X's.
Satanic Hispanic. That one's like, that one's fun. I just always like the image they use towards the bottom of iceberg stuff where it's that very scary looking sea mammal. What is that?
Oh, a manatee.
That's a manatee? Oh man.
Or it might be a porpoise, but yeah. It has like a Joker face.
Yeah, no, it's messed up. Where Swans Will Weep. Yeah. Sorry, Sleepy Randy. Just they like get less scary as you go down and more wacky.
Yeah.
I feel, but
yeah. Okay, now we can start talking about Witch House music. So if you think about like what creepy electronic music sounds like, you're already halfway there in terms of like knowing what Witch House sounds like because it's pretty intuitive. It's distorted synths, eerie vocals, but it has one element that's really surprising. It references what's called like chopped and screwed.
Yeah, which is something from like the South, like New Orleans hip hop.
No, it's Houston actually.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah. So Chopped and Screwed, the name comes from DJ Screw, who is a Houston rapper. It's like both a genre and a technique where basically they remix the beat and then it's slowed down to say 60 or 70 beats per minute. So it's pretty slow. But as you're listening to Witch House music, you'll just hear random trap noises. Yeah.
Yeah. You included the remix of Better Off Alone by Salem. Yeah, and they just slow down this very like upbeat. But it like, I think the prime candidates for this are songs that are upbeat but do have kind of a sad message if you just read the lyrics. That's like primo candidate.
Yeah. I mean, what I like that they sample from chopped and screwed hip hop is the hip hop beats. I think that's what's exciting and nice is that unexpectedly there is like a beat, a rhythm to Witch House.
Yeah, that can like pull you through the kind of like spookiness of it. Yeah.
But simply slowing down a song, that's not very creative because Vaporwave did the exact same thing.
Yeah, it does feel a little just like pedestrian, like midwitty. It's like you wouldn't expect it to be this slow. Doesn't it totally fundamentally change the song? And it's like, yeah, I guess it does you fundamentally changed it and I'm changed. Yeah,
I don't even know if I would have figured out if that Salem song was just Better Off Alone, Slow Down. It does sound pretty different, but yeah, that's giving them too much credit. Yeah. So now we can actually talk about Salem, and we're going to get into some Witch House musicians in depth. So Salem, do you want to do the background or should I?
I can do it, yeah. So they were formed in Traverse City, Michigan in 2006. So it was John Holland, Jack Donahue, who we'll talk about quite a bit, and Heather Marlatt. Yeah, and Heather Marlatt was later pushed out of the band, and there's a little drama around that. But yeah, Jack Donahue will be familiar to some listeners.
Yeah, because he's the guy who's in that famous picture with Lana Del Rey in front of the Cook County Penitentiary.
Yeah, and he has like an IU shirt on, or University of Illinois.
Yeah, and I think he's, well, not in every picture, but he also has like a Polish hat on, like with the crest. Like that's also very Chicago coded.
Yeah, it's all like, yeah, very Midwest kind of dress up it feels. It feels like Lana Del Rey just like bounces around to each like cultural slice of America and finds the man who most fits that.
Yeah.
You know, California man, New York man, Gator man, Florida man.
She wants to do a publicity stunt in every flyover state.
Yes, exactly. As she plumbs the depths of Americana.
Because I feel like I don't know if this was, but this might have been the start of her doing like kind of poverty coded publicity stunts. Like after this, she then went and worked at Waffle House, and then she married that Gator tour guide. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. But okay, Jack Donahue, I want to do an aside for a bit because he really irks me.
Yeah, the vibes are off on this guy. There's just so many photos of him where he's just like, he looks like purposely zonked out.
Yeah. Okay, I have a theory, and hopefully I articulate this well because it might sound problematic if I don't really land this. But okay, there's a particular genre of bi guy where they're very masculine presenting. Like they just seem like a straight guy, but then they also want to be alternative and artsy. Yeah. And threading the line between the two is really hard, where you have to conform, but then you're trying to be different. And you just see the exhaustion in Jack Donahue's eyes and the other bi guys that are kind of like this.
Yeah, of like, towing that line of being like mask, and then also being like an art student.
Yeah, because I would encounter guys like this at SAC, and I was always their type. And that's why I know them like kind of well, you know?
Yeah, he seems like he's molded himself into like a gay guy's idea of a straight guy. You know, there's like a lot of steps going on there. I think that's, where the exhaustion comes in. But yeah, Jack Donahue and John Holland actually met at the American Apparel on Belmont, apparently.
Which is where I started at American Apparel. That was my first store.
Yeah, you were off by a few years, but yeah, you could have witnessed that.
Yeah. You know what's funny is one of the many problematic things American Apparel would do is they would send all the gay guys to that location.
Well, yeah, like the two of them met there, had a brief tryst, and then started making music together.
Yeah. Jack Donahue is actually from here, but John Holland, he's from Traverse City, or more specifically, is actually from Interlochen, Michigan, which is a small town in Traverse County. But did you want to talk about Traverse City more in depth?
Yeah, it's interesting because Traverse City itself is not the place you'd expect this genre to come from, because to a lot of Chicagoans, it's a very like pretty like travel destination. Basically, they're known for their cherries and their wine and for their Cornish pasties that they make, and they have a cute semi-walkable downtown. But that is kind of just one part of Traverse City. Like the wider part of Traverse City and the county and Michigan in general is a story of deindustrialization, you know? So there are some, I see that side. That's where they must have drawn the inspiration for this like dark woods, dilapidated houses. Like there's that there. But yeah.
Because the Rust Belt, it's not in great shape. It was in rougher shape in the 2000s. But Traverse City is like a bright spot. It wasn't as deeply or as badly impacted.
Yeah, the way for a lot of these places to survive, if they didn't have a college there to survive deindustrialization, is like being naturally beautiful enough to be a resort destination.
To get some tourists.
Yeah.
Just some.
Traverse City is not exactly a national draw. It feels like it's one of those kind of like more regional draws, which there's not too many of those anymore because of flight.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's a great place. I've been there for a wedding.
Yeah.
And I was
But we're
impressed.
very pro domestic travel.
Yes.
You guys should go there if you
go
can.
to Traverse City. Go to the Captain's Quarters, which is a great menswear store down there. Yeah.
Okay, but back to Salem. I want to play the song Trapdoor.
Eyes dark closed, he don't bark, I speak. Church is a kid, so a nigga don't bleed. All blurred out, hey bitch, I can't see ya. It's all blurred out, hey bitch, I can't see ya. It's all blurred out, hey bitch, I can't see ya. So turn this shit around, baby, I should leave. Get all blurred out, hey bitch, I can't see ya. It's all blurred out, hey bitch, I can't see ya. It's all
So I'm normally a big fan of, electronic male musicians and girl-guy duos, which Salem's kind of halfway there. They have 2 guys, 1 girl. But actually within Salem, I like the male vocals more. Like it's kind of sad that Heather Marlett got kicked out. Like,
Yeah.
she seems like a good person. But ironically, as much as I get irked by Jack Donahue, I like him on this track because that guy who you just heard singing, that's him.
Yeah, no. It feels like it can really go both ways, like with the vocalists here. Like there's really good female vocalists, but also the male vocalists they can do the brooding part maybe a little bit better. You can either go ethereal or brooding, the 2 sides of Witch House.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, Jack on this track, he's more so rapping, and it like the chopped and screwed influence is coming in more strongly on this track than most Witch House songs. Like you can really hear it.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. So what happened to Salem? So after the release of their first album, King Knight, they then took a 10-year hiatus before Fires of Heaven in 2020, but they kept like a really strong fan base. And I feel like their sort of social media presence is why, because they were kind of like Death Grips-esque in that like they just made no sense online.
Yeah, no, just very like absurdist. There was a bit where Jack Donahue was just posting like content related to the Iraq War, despite not serving in that. But yeah.
Yeah. And then we can talk about Pictureplane next.
So yeah, he was based out of like a Denver like DIY space artist community thing called Rhinoceropolis.
Yeah, Rhinoceropolis.
Here we go. I forget about that side of Denver. That there is like an artsy side of it too, like a Portland in the mountains deal. Well,
Who knows if there
Portland's
still is? I mean, I feel like it's pretty. I hate using the word gentrified, but I don't picture there being like a big DIY scene there.
Yeah, I just imagine it's like Corpo Gorpo is how I describe it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, I actually found, so Pictureplane, I think 16 years ago, he uploaded a fake MTV Cribs. Like, he showed off Rhinoceropolis and you get to see what it looks like. And it really is like the sort of artist compound you'd think of. Like, they just collected all these weird paintings. Like, there's one of baby head swirling around a galaxy.
Yeah. No, yeah. Artist squats, I guess, as they're called sometimes. But I don't imagine this was a real squat. I think probably someone was on the lease.
Yeah. Pictureplane is connected to so many artists, though. Like, there's pictures of him with Grimes, with Sunbell. He knows, like, again, everyone really that was involved with early internet aesthetics and Tumblr back in the day. But he's more of a musician first and a trendsetter second. Like, for someone to have a career for this long, he actually has to care about this. Like, it is his calling.
No, I just really like the interviews with him. He kind of addresses how like dark and brooding the music can be, but he says that like he wants people to dance. Like he was saying that like happy and poppy music doesn't get as much respect, which is interesting because like in the later era of Pitchfork, like pop music got all of this critical respect and was actually held up on the level of indie. So maybe he kind of called that in a sense, or didn't see what was coming, I guess. But yeah, he just seems like a really nice guy, which I feel like sometimes when we read about a lot of these scenes, there's just a lot of bad actors in it and
Gatekeepers.
Yeah, I guess that too. And just, I don't know, Crystal Castles type situations. And he's just the opposite of that. I wish him the best.
Yeah. And now I want to play the song Goth Star by Pictureplane. So Gostar comes from the album Dark Rift. This was the album that he released shortly before he coined the term witch house. So when he described, this being inspired by occult aesthetics and what he talked about in that Pitchfork interview, this is what he was referring to. And this is his most famous track to this day. It has over 2 million plays on Spotify.
Yeah.
And it's kind of I think of this as kind of being the witch house version of Home by Resonance, where there's no vocals, it's very ambient, but it's very popular.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to listen to this while driving at night. And I feel like that's a very good fit for this. I don't know, just the little lights on the dash and like watching the city go by.
Yeah. The music video, it has really good visuals where it's of people like lighting candles, putting them in a triangle, and then doing a ritual.
Yeah. The very occult side of it. I'd love to see it.
Yeah. And then one thing to just note about him. So he also started a clothing line called Alien Body that kind of fits in. Mm-hmm. So it's not as like occult symbol heavy as say Nevermind, but it does fit within the aesthetic.
Oh yeah. And
then next we can talk about Crimes. So this is a musical group I didn't know anything about before this week, but I came to really like them. So Crimes is a now inactive London-based electronic duo that's composed of Rurot and Sadie Pin. Mm-hmm. They met each other and then shortly after became homeless together. And their first EP, which was self-titled Crimes, it was created in a variety of places that they dwelled in, like garages, railway arches, office blocks, and garden sheds. They kept a low public profile, and they haven't released any new music since 2016, but I really liked what I listened to this week.
Yeah. They also met in like a warehouse artist space type deal in North London, which I don't know the sides of London. Maybe that's the bad side.
No, South London is typically the more working class, poorer side because south of the river, the metro lines don't go there really. There's only a few that extend that far south.
And Cockneys are from the East End?
I don't know anything about that.
I don't know.
Yeah. But they have a really great sound and aesthetic. I'm going to play now Salt. So what does that sound like to you?
It's a lot. It's definitely the droning comes to mind, I would say.
Yeah. Or I was kind of hoping you'd say Crystal Castles.
Oh, yeah.
This would really piss them off if they ever hear this because they have a lot of beef, it seems like, with other bands. Like they think other people riff them off. Yeah. And I think they're referring maybe to Crystal Castles. Yeah. I wasn't able to find enough information online about their beef, but there are pictures of Rurot and Alice Glass together. And then it's reported that Rurot personally knew Ethan Kath.
Yeah, the narcissism of small differences, as they say.
Yeah. But yeah, I like Salt as a song. It is very droning. It's a little shrill. Sorry, I didn't give people a warning. But the vocals, they're very Alice Glass-esque.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, I've seen like Crimes and Crystal Castles like being grouped together like as being separate from Witch House. And that a distinction, I think some people chalk it up to kind of a lack of hip-hop inspiration.
Yeah, you don't really hear the beat part.
Yeah.
I guess you can, but it's not like it doesn't sound like trap, you know?
Like, yeah, people say that with like Crystal Castles, like, no, they're drawing more from like chip tunes and like DIY and punk. Yeah. Like they have like that song that samples a bit of Death from Above 1975, and then that band then sampled them a little bit, so they have that kind of interplay. But yeah, not really chopped and screwed.
Yeah. So what happened to Crimes exactly? So the most recent updates I can find on them come from a Instagram account called Rurot Fan. And they're kind of sad to read through.
Yeah. They got in contact with Rue, basically the person who runs this page. And Rue was saying that he doesn't really want to like revisit this time. I don't know. This feels kind of familiar to some things we've seen in other scenes, actually literally with the Scene Kids thing too, with like how rife that was with abuse. But yeah, it feels like there's people like us who are like trying to culturally understand this moment, what was happening. And you ask the people who are involved and they're like, that was the darkest period of my life. Like, I don't really want to go back to that. But then, yeah, as we described, the guy who ran Nevermind is also like, oh man, that was the best. Like, so it was a very wide world and some people really chewed up and spat out of it. But other people, it was just like a great place to be.
Yeah. It seems like they they've intended to make music. Like with their last release in 2016, they didn't think they were going to go on a hiatus for a decade. But Rurat seems to have some problems with mental health. Like he alludes to PTSD in some of his posts that he shared with the owner of that page. But I'd love to hear more music from them because we're never getting Crystal Castles again. That is done.
Yeah, yeah. So, and we talked about, each of their independent works just seem like they're missing a little something. So like
yeah. But reportedly, Rurat and Sadie Payne, they're still best friends. So
there you go.
Maybe it could happen one day.
All right, let's get it going.
But now we can finally talk about Crystal Castles. So do you think Crystal Castles is Witch House?
I'm going to say no now is where I've kind of landed on it for the reasons I mentioned earlier about the like not having the hip hop influence. I think that is like a pretty key part of it.
Yeah.
They seem like they came like it's a little bit of conversion evolution. I would say that they just kind of arrived at the same. I think it's the visual language that kind of draws them into this scene, and then the music is not different enough, like in order to dispel it. So I see why the comparison is made.
Yeah. Do you know that phrase we learned from the Manouche Jazz episode, musical idiom?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's not quite a genre, but it's when like one musical act is so influential that basically all other music that sounds like it is in reference to it. And I feel like Crystal Castles is a bit like that. Because like their music, it's very video games-esque, which is hard to realize because their aesthetic is so dark and you're able to divorce the video game-like sounds from actual video games.
Yeah, I think I said this in the Crystal Castles episode, but like I tried to listen to wider like chiptune music and it's just too video gamey.
Yeah.
Like Crystal Castles shed that more successfully and like was able to separate it and use it in this new context. That other places were too like, I don't know, like hemmed in by the idea of video games maybe or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do think that as you go through Crystal Castles' discography from the first album to the third and fourth, it starts to get more and more Witch House-esque. And then I think after Alice Glass's departure, the fourth and final Crystal Castles album, Amnesty One, that the cover art actually gets, it's the first image you see on the Witch House Aesthetics wiki page. Like that's considered to be very Witch House.
Yeah. They're like kind of cloned like spooky girls.
Yeah, it's like 4 girls playing on a swing set with chains and they're kind of wearing like Wednesday Addams-esque like pilgrim black dresses.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because timeline-wise, it's like really towards the end of Witch House. It's kind of interesting to think about. Like,
oh yeah, that album was 2015.
Yeah, so it's like this band that's held up as being so deeply original, kind of like looking like they're hack at the end of it.
Yeah,
like a fate worse than death. Looking unoriginal.
But yeah, I think Amnesty One might count. But even if it is Witch House, that album sucks. It's not good.
No, album art better than the album, maybe.
Yeah, and then one more thing to mention is that there are other groups that kind of fit into the Crimes, Crystal Castles, Salem. Like there's this meme that was posted to the Witch House subreddit where it says, shout out to the male producer, female lead Witch House duos. They also list White Ring and Snow Strippers. But yeah, this genre in particular, I'm a fan of this in general, say with like Miss Kitten and the Hacker and Sleigh Bells, where there's just a girl and guy. Yeah. But yeah, Witch House is like, it has such a bounty of them.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I just like, it makes me think broadly about like even outside of Witch House, like other pairings, because like Billie Eilish and her producer brother, does that count? Like, yeah, that's kind of gross to compare them, but yeah. And then Die Antwoord, which is much like older and totally different in terms of its origin. It's like from being poor and Dutch in South Africa and stuff.
Well, you know, Die Antwoord, they're what's called Zeph. Have you ever heard of that term?
Yeah, the subculture.
Yeah, that's very hard to find anything about online. I mean, if you try to find other Zeph music, like there's not too many examples out there.
Yeah,
it's something that I thought like might be a cool episode, but we don't know South Africa at all.
Yeah, we have to get someone who speaks Afrikaans and stuff and is familiar with the scene.
Yeah.
But yeah, America might be getting more of those people. Apparently Trump wants to like bring them over here and stuff. So yeah, we'll get one of them.
But what do you think Witch House was trying to express?
I don't know. This is what I've been trying to like pick out of this. Like you think about the wider cultural trends and stuff like, all right, this is the Great Recession. This is also like musicians being handed the internet. Like those are two large things at play. But like, where is the deep darkness coming from?
Well, you know what I think it is? I think it's expressing a millennial nihilism.
Yeah.
But we did an episode on that like a while back, over a year ago. But we had this theory basically that nihilism was accumulating in American culture and each generation was getting more nihilistic, and then it kind of peaked with millennials. And
Yeah.
I feel like Salem and other bands, they're like peak millennial.
Yeah. No, I just wonder about like the kind of deindustrialization angle of it. Of like deindustrialization had been happening for so long, but like the Great Recession just felt like a kick while they were down.
Yeah. But you know what's interesting is this aesthetic, this genre, very online, but it is very much a reaction to place. Like Salem and their bandmates being from the Midwest, Crimes, Ruad and Sadie Pin living in homelessness, Alice Glass also being homeless. Like they were making music in reaction to pretty dire economic conditions.
Yeah, it feels like in that way it's very like punk in a kind of earlier, truer sense. I think I've talked about this in other episodes, but like I get kind of irritated by like all the kind of, I don't know, political thinking around punk and like punk is this and like punk is anti-racist and all these things that like, yes, are likely very true, but I think it kind of misses the point of like punk is about being like poor, angry, and dissatisfied and not necessarily productive about it. I think that, yeah, like in its highest form, it can be this like political, transformative kind of thing, but it's sometimes also just like a scream, you know, about your situation and not exactly looking for solutions.
Yeah, I found no like allusions to politics in any of the projects that I read about this week. Yeah. It feels like Witch House itself, it's really just an actual expression of darkness, which is kind of weird to say. But I was actually kind of touched by the fact that these people who had nothing, you know, who were really suffering themselves, they prioritized making art and music. And they actually were living for their true calling. And like many people, they don't use their talents even with, you know, a roof over their head. So I was really inspired by these people as I read about them this week.
Yeah. Yeah, I think one thing that also stands out is like trying to put myself back in that like circa 2010 mindset is like, was this like occult imagery and stuff, was this like genuinely offensive at the time, you know? Because like, I don't know, it feels like it's so kind of done now, like Lil Nas X and stuff, like just devil, demon imagery, whatever, like upside down crosses, like nuns, like that stuff. Like I just wonder if that was more, it's hard to imagine those being like genuinely offended by this. I mean, you are genuinely like you're not offended by it, but it holds great power to you, these like, you know, symbols.
No, I'm offended by it. Like there was a Witch House image of like a nun with an inverted cross on her head that I uploaded to the Pinterest board, and then I looked at it again and I was like, no, I need to take this down.
That is, a bridge too far.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the legacy of Witch House today, I think that our listeners kind of know where this is going, which is that like what happens to subcultures at the end is that they get sublimated into the mainstream. Certain parts of them are picked out and kind of like still present nowadays.
Yeah, I think it can kind of depend though. Like if a subculture has a longer shelf life, then I think it gets absorbed. But if it has a really short shelf life where it really is just sort of like a buzzword where only a few things get produced or made with that idea in mind, like say C-Punk, I don't really see that happen. Like there happens to be like one Justin Bieber song that I think kind of sounds C-Punk. It's what's the one, like What Does It Mean? But yeah, that one I don't think got absorbed.
Yeah, and that one SNL performance.
Oh, well, that happened while C-Punk was still a thing, but that was Diamond's Rihanna SNL performance.
Yeah, and then it just kind of gets forgotten. But yeah, we'd mentioned Billie Eilish earlier. Like she feels kind of like in this tradition. Yeah. You know?
Well, there's an interview that Pictureplane did in 2020, I believe, where he talks about the legacy of Witch House. And then he talks about how he thinks that Billie Eilish is an example of how Witch House never died, that it got absorbed into greater culture. Because, apparently her aesthetics, like she has a music video where her eyes start to like bleed black paint or blood. And her music, it has like a certain softness to it that does sound Witch House.
Yeah. It also came back around and kind of got reintroduced to the rap mainstream as well.
Yeah.
Like Jack Donahue was involved in the song Black Skinhead by Kanye. He was given credit, but not given money. And there was drama over that. Yeah. And then A$AP Rocky and The Weeknd, like they have that influence. You can just kind of see it. Like it feels like before this period, you wouldn't get this type of darkness in a mainstream rap song. So it's interesting that people in Traverse City taking Houston rap music then reinserts it into a Chicago origin artist album. Like it's, I don't know, it's very interesting.
Did you listen to any Chopped and Screwed music this week?
I tried, yeah.
It's okay if you didn't.
I did. I was listening to like literally like
Yeah.
DJ Screw, and I was just like, I guess I'm just this is not
It's
for me.
interesting though, because it feels like kind of demonic. It feels like something that shouldn't exist. Because it sounds so quintessentially 90s, but then it's so different than any rap music I've ever heard.
Yeah, no, it was not like what, like I'm not the best barometer of this, but it's like, I guess I'm a good barometer of like the absolute mainstream, like only the most mainstream rap would have made it to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, none of that stuff came through. Yeah, it had to be kind of modulated through these artists in order to find its way into the mainstream.
Yeah. But I do think that for the true legacy of Witch House to come back, we need to see young women wearing inverted cross leggings walking down the street. That's when we know it's back in style.
Yeah. So, maybe for this Halloween, maybe, C-Punk guy and then Witch House girl, mix it up, do one of those.
Yeah. There's this really cool image online, actually, where someone dressed up as Ultra Demon and Zambel for Halloween many years ago.
Oh my God. That's crazy. The more I think about them, like, and we described in the episode as like a kind of like culture of two people, where they've become these like iconic figureheads. Like you're dressing up as a real person she's only like late 30s or something now, maybe like, and people are dressing up as you when you were like 20 something living on couches in Chicago. Like that's crazy.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of people, living on couches in their 20s in Chicago and no one dresses up as them. Like you've really made it to something.
And there are a lot of people living on couches that don't make music like Crimes or Hellas Glass. So, Well, thank you for doing this episode this week. Fun fact for the audience, I actually had a surgery today where they removed one hair follicle, which doesn't sound like a big deal, but they actually had to make an incision. So part of my neck is like numb. And I think I did a really good job, even though part of my face is paralyzed.
God, this is like when Michael Jordan played the flu game. Wait, no, that was a bad example. No, but you're playing through the pain, basically, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. No, I'm not in pain, thankfully, but we'll see what it will feel like as, well, it was an anesthesia, but yeah, whatever the numbing ointment rubs off, we'll see how I feel. But yeah, thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.